John Cena retiring from the WWE was a moment that I expected. And I was actually glad he did it a little bit younger in life. Although, again, that is wrestling. So somebody will probably offer him tons of money to come back and wrestle. We'll have to see how strong willed he is and how much money he makes in Hollywood, where he doesn't want to get thrown around for it. But for those people who are familiar, Cena is the 16-time world champion. He's tied with Ric Flair, but there's two caveats to that. One, all Cena's titles, world titles, were in the WWE. Flair's were in other federations as part of that. And then Flair also says he has more than that. I'm a big Ric Flair fan. Who knows how many he actually had, but it's more than the 16 that he has right now, according to Rick. Of course, people don't really remember, but John Cena was actually a trash talking rapper when he debuted back in 2002. That was actually Thugonomics. It was actually pretty funny. If you go back and look at some of those old films, he was really good at it. And sometimes, even if you don't have a good gimmick, you just got to dive into it to prove to the people running the company that you'll do your best in any situation. Over the course of his career, he really carried the WWE for probably a decade. He had historic feuds with Randy Orton, CM Punk, AJ Styles. He had a couple big matches against The Rock. So a little intergenerational matches there. He is a guy who has done a ton for the sport, and he has been a good guy since 2005. When people told him, oh, you need to be a bad guy, you need to be like Hulk Hogan when he ran the NWO, he went from Hulk Hogan to Hollywood. That is not what Cena chose to do. He stays as a good guy. And he was a main eventer up until 2018, and then he became a part timer. But he was the type of guy who built up younger wrestlers. He knew he had a name. He allows himself to get beat so that the younger wrestler can look better and build credibility in the eyes of the fans. If you have a Mount Rushmore of WWE wrestlers, guys who were just in the WWE. I'm not saying their total career, but Bruno Sammartino would be up there. He actually carried the WWE for a long time in the 60s and early 70s. You have to put Hulk Hogan because you wouldn't have the pro wrestling of today without his massive run in the 80s. People remember him initially from being Thunder Lips in Rocky 3 when he was the wrestler that Burgess Meredith couldn't believe how big he was. And that kind of sprungboard his career. And then you had the first person, and if you're listening, you didn't see my air quotes, but the first person to body slam Andre the Giant, although we can see tons of people who did that before that, but hey, it's wrestling. He had that in WrestleMania 3, I believe, and it was just a huge moment. The next guy on there, you'd probably have Stone Cold Steve Austin. For a short period of time, he was probably the most popular wrestler in the history of the WWE. Unfortunately, he had a neck injury that prevented him from wrestling as much, which really opened the door for The Rock to become so popular. And the fourth person on there, I would put John Cena. He carried wrestling, especially when there were some rough times, and he carried the WWE. Now, other people would argue The Rock needs to be there. I think his best work was done post his wrestling career, where he's become incredibly popular. And some people would put Shawn Michaels in there. But again, I think Cena is one that would make the WWE Mount Rushmore. If you like John Cena, he's on all sorts of things. You hear him on Honda commercials. You can see him on his amazing series on Max, used to be HBO, called The Peacemaker. Very good. And he's in the Fast and Furious franchise and does a ton of movies. He's really developed his career, built on it one step at a time. And if you ever saw his first movie, The Marine, he's done a lot of good things in improving his skills. I'm not saying he's Robert De Niro, but he has improved his skill set. But the one thing I want to say about John Cena is he's never been my favorite wrestler, but he has been a staunch supporter of the Make a Wish Foundation. And he has done over 650 wishes for people. That is incredible what he does for kids and the time he gives. And he doesn't necessarily try to get press coverage for it, but he's just there showing up and doing that work. Second place in Make a Wish is somewhere right around 200 to give you a perspective of what he's done. So he's the Wayne Gretzky, Babe Ruth of Make a Wish. And to my way of thinking, there's a special place that he goes to in my respect, just because of his willingness to help kids who are in such horrible needs. And I think that's fantastic. People don't talk about it a lot, but he keeps doing that even when he's in Hollywood. Guy sets a heck of an example. It's really hard not to like a guy who acts like that and puts his money where his mouth is and spends that amount of time. So with that, those are the three heat checks for this week. I hope everybody has a great weekend, and we will see you next week. Till then, keep going forward.